Hey everybody, Kelly Dixon Englishtown Real Estate Venture Partners. Welcome back. So we're going to dive right in and we're going to talk about where the rubber meets the road. It's actually finding deals, okay? If you need a first step, the first step is always finding a deal. How do you find a deal? And the best deals are always off market, okay? We prefer to deal directly with the owner and not with middle people like real estate agents. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of good real estate agents out there that do help deals move forward, but it's a lot easier to negotiate if we deal with the owner directly. And given the fact that the real estate agent or broker has to get paid, there's always a motive that they have to try to seek the most money. And sometimes the deals that we make aren't necessarily going to get the real estate agent or broker the most money. So we don't mind dealing with them, but it's always preferable if we can get to the actual owner of a property and try to make a deal that way. Okay, so we're gonna jump right in and get going and start here. How do we find off-market deals? The best way that I love, and I still do this, anybody that has ever been in a car with me, they understand, is actual drive-bys. The money is made on vacant transactions. Now, when I started, I would take a notebook, I would take 2 hours out the day, and I would just drive around neighborhoods writing down addresses of all vacant properties. If you do not have a lot of money, this is a very good and efficient way to start prospecting, because vacant properties are problems, typically. Why? Usually the municipality is not collecting money from them. Usually it's an eyesore to the neighborhood. The owner of the property obviously is not getting any usage from it because they're not renting it or they're not living there. So there's always opportunities with vacant properties. Now, not every vacant property is an opportunity, but usually there's a motivation on all parties with vacant properties. And I find that the best and easiest deals are dealing with vacant properties. It's one thing to have a great deal, but you have tenants that are in there, or you have owners that still live in there and they need to transition or get another place to live, or better yet, you have tenants that the owner wants to sell, but the tenants aren't being cooperative and showing the place, so you can do what you have to do in order to buy the property and get the property sold. So vacants are key. I can't emphasize that enough. The more vacants you can write and get a list of, the better you will do. Now, I know there are some sites that offer vacants, or there's some services you can subscribe to get vacants. What I've found is that those sites typically lag what's really happening. The best way to get vacants, honestly, is to just drive around and write them down. It may sound like, it's a waste of time, but you will be far more accurate and spend far less money in marketing if you have vacants. And I'll give you this scenario. 5,000 confirmed vacants is worth about 5,000 unconfirmed, and obviously it costs you 10 times more to market to 5,000 leads as it does to 500 leads. I highly recommend driving by and writing this down and actually making a list, and we could talk about what we're going to do with that list later on. When you're looking for vacants, you're looking for vacant or boarded up houses. Also, two properties that are for sale. A lot of times an owner would have tried to market the property through an agent and you'll see a sign there, but obviously you want to look for properties where nobody's there, preferably distressed. So properties that have not been rehabilitated, like they're vacant because an investor just purchased it, made it beautiful and trying to sell it. Those aren't the vacants we're looking for. We're looking for the ugly ducklings for the most part. It seems like nobody lives there, or it seems uncared for. So you have shrubbery, you have, lights on, at 3 a.m. in the morning, and the same lights on at 7 a.m. in the morning, and then 3 a.m. in the morning again. Not that you're out driving around at 3 a.m. in the morning, but just giving you ideas. All right, the grass is not cut. The mail is falling out of the mailbox. These are clear indications and signs that the property is probably vacant and obviously uncared for. Other things, it's July and you still see Christmas lights. Okay, those are clear signs that either somebody has dementia or the property is vacant. The next thing that we or the next group of properties we look for, properties that are in pre-foreclosure. So if once a property is 90 days late, it usually goes into pre-foreclosure. Now, given current market conditions, there is a delay, but there will be a wave of pre-foreclosures. And what that means is that the bank is either doing a lis pendens or notice of sale, letting the property owner know that they are delinquent and they are accelerating the debt, meaning that you took a $400,000 mortgage, you were making payments, then that since you weren't, you owe us the remaining balance right now. And if you can't pay that, then we're going to foreclose. So the lis pendens, the notice of default, those are the first steps into the foreclosure process. And which one you get depends on which state. Notice of sale, or sorry, notice of default would actually be non-judicial or trust deed states, and lis pendens would actually be judicial states. We'll talk about that in another chapter. So just very quickly, a lis pendens is a written notice that a lawsuit has been filed concerning real estate involving either the title of the property or a claimed ownership interest in it. Okay, so how do we find these lis pendens, notice of defaults? All right, you can go to your county clerk's office or your county recorder's office, and you can ask for a list. This is public information. Some offices even have online searches that you can use. Others require that you go into the office and use their computers on their system. You can also pay for a service, PropStream, Property Shark, Realty Track, Geodata. These are a few that are rolling off the tongue here that you can actually CoreLogic. These are services that offer lis pendens that you can, or notice of defaults that you can get, and you can actually create lists of these notice of defaults and LPs. I call them LPs. All right. So the lis pendens they're filed against the property once the bank has accelerated the mortgage. And again, once you find these, you can find out where these properties are located and who owns them. Okay, and the goal would be to contact the owner. Okay, now we're going to talk about the difference right here of the notice of default. All right, so a notice of default is a public notice filed with a court stating that a mortgage borrower is in default on a loan. This is one of the first steps towards foreclosure in a non-judicial state. Okay, non-judicial, and judicial simply means that the foreclosure happens through the court system, that the bank must foreclose through the court system. In a non-judicial state, the bank can foreclose without going through the court system. They actually foreclose through a trustee, and they have a trustee sale. So not going through court obviously is a lot quicker process, and foreclosures happen a lot faster in non-judicial states. On average, there are some exceptions, but on average, non-judicial foreclosure is a lot faster than judicial foreclosure. So those are default. You can try contacting the local county court for these. You can ask for NODs. Again, these documents must be recorded at the court. Find out from the county recorder if the data is available online. Again, a lot of these municipalities have the information online. You're going to search at the county level. So you're not going to go to like Louisiana to find something in New Orleans, whatever that county is. You would go to the county level, or even if it's sometimes even smaller than that, a city level, you can look for the information there. Okay, but it's typically at the county level as well. You can also look in the local newspaper. So a lot of times when they file these, they have to advertise in a local newspaper, and most municipalities have one that they use for real estate postings. So another way is probate. So probate is basically when the owner of a property passes away, and now the heirs of the property own it. So typically, a lot of heirs don't want the property. They don't want to deal with it. They just want to sell it and possibly make money. If the property's upside down and there is no money there, those become a lot easier because they start to realize that, okay, we're not making any money, and you can make great transactions with these as well. Okay, and probate a lot of times is typically sold through the court. So somebody dies with or without a will, it has to go through court to basically give someone or the estate authorization in order to actually proceed with the sale. And they also do that to make sure that the monies are dispersed and go to who they're supposed to go to. So basically, a probate home is sold in probate court when somebody dies intestate or without, giving somebody the property. When that happens, the state takes over and administers the property's sale. The court wants to be certain the property is marketed and sold at the best possible price. Okay, so how to find probate leads? You can locate and search your local probate listings. Check online for probate leads in your county. You can visit your local probate court. You can also use services like LexisNexis, and I think Bloomberg has a legal service now. Thomson and Reuters, they have a legal service now. So a lot of these, you can actually look up court cases, and you can even do that in a lot of municipalities. They actually have those records online. You can just type in probate court case, and that information will come up. I know in New York you have e-courts. So these are services that you can use. Some of them are even free. So you don't necessarily have to subscribe to any third-party service. Okay, and obviously you can buy probate leads online. Okay, another huge way to get leads is divorce. I hate to say it, but two people buy a property, they're in love, and now they're not in love, and two people can't stand each other, but they own a property together. Usually, if it took both of them to qualify for the mortgage and they break up, somebody's going to get the house, somebody's not. The person that's not getting the house is probably not paying, and the person that is left in the house probably can't afford to pay, and eventually they may or may not realize that they need to sell. Now, divorce cases are somewhat difficult because you have to be a psychiatrist and an investor at the same time for many of these cases, but they do offer tremendous opportunity and tremendous deals. So again, a lot of these properties will be vacant. Okay, again, these are delicate situations, so even though there's an opportunity, you also want to be very sensitive to what each party is going through, and a lot of times there are also kids involved, so you don't necessarily want to be a shark, right? You just want to try to help the situation, and if they both have come to terms that it's time to sell, obviously you want to be there to help them facilitate that and move on with their lives. A lot of times the real estate or property is the only thing that's connecting them. So how do you find divorce leads? You can look for local divorce notices, connect with a divorce or family lawyer, and try to get leads that way as well. You can find divorce filing lists, database, and software that will help you gather those leads. So another great way to get leads is landlord-tenant court. A lot of that is going to be going on now. Not only were the mortgages delinquent or needed forbearance, we also have renters that were in the same position. So there is a rental crisis as well, and there will be a lot of transient people that will not catch up on their rent. And that's going to be a huge opportunity, particularly if these landlords are forced to pay mortgages and their tenants aren't paying them. So when you see landlord-tenant issues, the one thing you can definitely ask or find the owners of those properties and see if the owner is looking to sell. A lot of times you can cut great deals because they have tenants in the property that aren't paying. And depending on what state you're in, these tenants may be in there longer than expected. So to find these, you can go to your court to access these records, or you can look online and find eviction court cases. So those are a tremendous opportunity. The last one, even though we prefer not to deal with real estate agents or brokers. They are the place that most sellers go to when they're looking to sell their property, and the reason being is because they don't necessarily know how to sell it, and real estate agents should be able to get them more money than they would get themselves. But once you deduct their commission, it usually works out to be the same, but at least you have somebody handling the process for you. A lot of owners still go to real estate agents, and it's okay to deal with real estate agents. I would market yourself to them. This is who you are, this is what you do, and this is what you're looking for. When you start out with real estate agents, you typically do not get the best deals, but eventually, as you start building rapport, they start getting familiar with you, and you can prove and close one or two of them. They'll start giving you more deals. I always like to look for newbies because we can help out with the process and teach them a lot, put money in their pocket, and once you make a newbie money, you have a friend for life. So, real estate agent, broker, realtor, obviously they represent the seller. They can give you a lot of good information about the property. Okay, you can also do mailers. Okay, mailings are great. Love mailing, direct mailing pieces, postcards, letters, etc. But obviously you want to make sure you have a list of either list pendants or vacants that you actually mailing to. So this is obviously the next step. Once we have those, let's say divorce lists or those probate leads or those landlord tenant leads, we now can mail them and speak to what their specific issue is. And obviously we look then to allow the phone to ring. And you can, if you don't have the ability to mail or you're tight on money, typically a letter is 50 cents to send out. A postcard's a little less. Once you get the information, you can also call them up. Calls are free for the most part. It does take a different type of personality. I don't mind cold calling. I know some people hate cold calling. So if you're the ones that hate cold calling, you want to make sure that your marketing is very good. And I'm not the one to say you got to learn to cold call. You don't got to learn to cold call. You can approach this either way. The thing is that if you decide not to cold call, you better make sure that you're getting a lot of leads out there so that you can attract or get enough callbacks so that you can actually build a business. Okay, but when the rubber meets the road and you don't have any money, sometimes picking up the phone is the best way to go. So that's how we gather lists and we start the process to start mailing. We're going to get a little bit more involved in module 3, video 3. If you like what you see here, please click the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see our social media information here as well. Please follow us, like us. We're going to keep coming and giving you more content, and I hope you're getting a lot from this. And obviously, any questions, feel free to shoot a comment. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, and hope to see you guys on the next video.